Hello everybody, hello dear friends, Max here again. We are now jumping into a new chapter called 13.4, Sealed Indictments and Arrests. This chapter is pretty heavy in the sense that I will now prove to you definitely, without question of a doubt, that there are things going on in the background that we cannot see if we don't look in the right places. This is a very inspiring show, so I hope you stick with me to the end, because lots will be revealed. Let's do the usual housekeeping here before we start. The Amazon page where you can find the book with all the links and hyperlinks to download all the documentation and documentaries. Please support me there. We have the YouTube channel where you can find all the episodes. Like and subscribe. Our Rumble channel and our Brighteon channel, as usual. Please spread the words, friends. More people need to hear this information. I will today do something unusual, though. I will also show you this. This is the description under each video that you will find under each chapter in this podcast series. There is a link for donations down here to me, all in cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. If anybody would feel so inclined to give me a donation, that would be highly appreciated, because I'm putting all this information out for you, free of charge. Even though I'm not in it for the money, I also need to keep the lights on and pay my expenses. So, enough of that. Let's go in to the discussion here. As you can notice, the thumbnail of this video and what you look at on your screen today is very different from the format that I have posted before. And this made me sad because I suffer from OCD and I want everything to be nice and clean. But this, what you see here, and every single thumbnail in the past, is always available in the chapter itself. Every single chapter has a thumbnail on top of the first page that kind of describes what the chapter is about. This chapter had this big banner on top of it, and I couldn't crop it or do anything with it because it does tell a lot, so I feel I need to show it to you. What it says here is, you want arrests? Do you think it's easy to undo a lifetime of evil and corruption, infestation, in the span of less than 2 years, with a corrupt DOJ and FBI in place? And here, this wonderful little graph shows you the timeline from 1913, which says, criminals hijacked our money system, occupied us covertly through debt slavery, and infiltrated our governments and intelligence agencies. We have spoken at length about that in previous chapter, haven't we? Then you have the middle part, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and the Middle East, with Kennedy in the center. He tried to stop it, but they got him. On the lower side, you have slave presidents doing the bidding of the bankers, fulfilling their globalist vision to deplete America through wars and economic decline. Isn't that true? We spoke about that as well. And then you have 2016 in the end. It says, this is the amount of time we have had to undo the whole mess. And this is still going on today, as we know and as I'm describing in this chapter. So I thought I'd leave the banner up there for you to see, because it's important to understand the exact timeline, and I just keep it there. It's my channel, of course. I do what I want. So let's get into it, shall we? The first 4 years of Trump's presidency will go down in the history books as the greatest story ever told. We will not be told yet, but very soon disclosure will occur and we will be told everything. There's much speculation regarding how this would occur. Some say there may be a period of darkness during some 10 days where the military announces martial law globally, and we will be forced to sit down in our homes and watch some pre-made documentaries explaining the state of current affairs. Many people has been talking about this in previous years. I do not know this to be true. I don't know how this would be done, but I'm open to anything, as long as it gets done. Maybe provide a copy of my book to each household. I would give it away for free if asked. Much could be learned from this alone. We described the global capitulation in the previous part, and later I introduced you to the missing kids and the reason why this had to be done. The question is, how to dismantle such a machine? The indoctrination and the state of mind of the masses could not absorb a military overt operation, as a civil war would ensue very quickly. The operation had to be covert, hidden from the public, with a simultaneous operation of counter-brainwashing occurring in the background. This is Q. It does make sense to me to use the same tactics as the Khazarian mafia has used on us for so long, but in the opposite direction. Several things would need to occur, and the procedure that I can see could be as follows. You demonstrate to the public that the economy can be turned around and energy independence is possible by deregulating and allowing the industry to do what it's supposed to do: operate. This was done during Trump's first term. Much like what Hitler did for Germany in the 30s, America went through this impossible transformation in just 2 years, or got a taste of it during Trump's years. This actually happened. As fictitious as the economy is, and with unlimited paper money printing it, it was not difficult to stimulate the economy during this time. He just needed the right people pulling the correct levers and work in the background to kill the central bank. This was done, and I will explain more on this later as it needs a longer explanation. We don't have time for this today. Arrests and prosecute those involved in the nefarious activities we have already discussed. How to do this covertly and with the public not knowing? It has to be the military, as regular law enforcement cannot be trusted and is completely compromised. Allow the criminals to continue with their crimes in order to track, trace, and gather all the necessary evidence to prosecute them. A sting operation managed by the military and the NSA, the National Security Agency. Space Force exists for this exact purpose, and the NSA answers to them and them alone. This tells you something. Take over the media assets, Twitter for example, and use them to slowly change the narrative and start disclosing truths, drip by drip. This requires a very long time. It's been so far 8 years in the making at this point. And I lived through all of it. It is frustrating indeed. We all hope it will end soon, but I can't say for how long this will still go on. The collective consciousness is waking up in ways never before imagined. We are much more aware of our surroundings. The percentage of population talking in these terms has increased dramatically. So much, in fact, that the elites are demanding that we be censored or even imprisoned for telling the truth they did not want to be disclosed. Remember what I said in the previous episode about the 12,000 people sitting in jail in the UK alone. That tells you something, doesn't it? People have been jailed for Facebook posts and engagement on social media, meaning that the social contract has broken beyond repair. Free speech is no more. Allow the Democrats, who are Khazarian mafia-led, to steal the 2020 elections, record and track everything, install a white hat puppet as president, and let him wreck the country, and the country's standing internationally for the entire world to see. The people need to live it in order to understand how bad it can be, and will start to actively engage in local affairs from that point. This is what Q already said, right? They have to live it. You can't tell them, they have to see it. When observing all the events that unfolded between 2021 and 2024, one needs to look at it from a new set of eyes and a new and different perspective, which I will lay out for you right here. From a viewer's perspective, what we see happening is absolutely real. COVID happened, lockdowns happened, the Ukraine war happened, the Israel genocide happened and is still going on. People are dying during these wars, and that is absolutely real and terrible. But please do consider what I have been describing in previous chapters. World War I and II were staged by the Khazarian mafia for their own benefit. Vietnam was a Khazarian mafia war. So was Korea, Yugoslavia, Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Why would not the same tactics be deployed by the White Hats or the Alliance to further their own objectives? In this case, once and for all, exterminate the satanic rules that the Khazarian mafia represent. In my view, it is absolutely possible, and I think that the Alliance have considered this and agreed or accepted that the death toll we are witnessing would have been multitudes larger if the Khazarian mafia would have been allowed to continue on its path. If Hillary, or as I call her, Killary, was elected in 2016, I would not be writing this today. I would not be speaking to you here. You would not be reading or listening to me, as I would have most likely been killed during a global nuclear war or locked up in a camp somewhere. We have all seen how that happens. This is what they have been preparing for. The Georgia Guidestones were clear on this point. 90% of the world would have to be eliminated. And it doesn't matter if you believe this to be true or not, because they do. So let me go a bit deeper on the main points that I discussed here. There's something called sealed indictments in America. An indictment is issued by a legal prosecutor against an individual if evidence is presented and examined that proves without any doubt that the accused is guilty of such crime. The individual will at that point be arrested to face trial in court with a jury of his peers. Now, the normal procedure for this is disclosed in public, and the indictment is unsealed. If a criminal organization or a cartel is indicated, they often fall under the RICO statute, meaning that the indictment needs to be sealed and secret in order to avoid disclosure to the accused parties, allowing them to escape. A sealed indictment is issued by a judge and a grand jury. Same procedure as usual, but the paperwork is kept secret until the arrests are made, usually doing surprise multiple raids, where all the accused are rounded up without the possibility to communicate with each other. This has been used, and the RICO statute in particular was used in New York City to take down the Italian mafia under the mayor Rudy Giuliani. He did that. This statute was invented to take down organized crime. Okay? The historical average of sealed indictments in the US is around 1,000 to 1,700 each year. I checked this data, it's correct. A relatively small number considering the entire population. Now, Q told us where to look on May 17, 2018, which I will show you here. Note, this was the day of the unsealing of Anthony Weiner, who was involved in a nasty sex scandal in New York. He just happened to be the husband of Huma Abedin, Hillary's personal assistant and friend. What a messy web they weave, huh? Huma Abedin, I might add, is today married to Alex Soros, George Soros' son, and one of the evilest men ever walking this realm. Now, what does this tell us exactly? Q here showed us the unsealed indictment of Anthony Weiner. That was on May 17, 2018. Let me read for you what Q said here. And Anon came up and made this post. He says, the source of the unsealed Weinstein indictment is Pacer Service Center found at www.pacer blah blah blah. See the blue text at the top? That's the standard header as appears on all documents filed in US federal courts. You can see that blue writing on top of the paper here that you can see on your screen. We cannot link directly because access to these files in Pacer is granted only to Pacer account holders, i.e. to legal professionals like myself. So this is a lawyer writing this. I have an idea for Pacer account holders. Let's start doing random searches using only the phrase unsealing order for 2018. This search will pull up any and all unsealed indictments in any given federal court in which we do that search. Notable, if only so that others with Pacer account will get on board with me. What Q answered to this post, down in the bottom where the red circle is, 100% authentic. So, Q is confirming to us that pacer.gov is a real thing, the seal indictments are real and happening. But there's more to this story. Follow me here. The site mentioned inside the post above, what I show you here, pacer.gov, shows all indictments of the country. Some smart people created an account on said site and started tracking these indictments right away, and discovered something stunning. I will now play you a short clip that explains it very well. I hope you're sitting down for this, because this is unbelievable. Let's play this for you.
Because if you look at the indictment count, remember that federal indictment, the sealed indictment count? What did that max out at? Like 200,000?
Well, in the Q drops, okay, there was a Q drop that directed us to pacer.gov with the breakdown of how many sealed indictments there was, and that was from like 2018. Well, those two anons that are in the Q boards actually kept the tracking going up until just a couple of months ago. It was 479,000 sealed indictments as of February of 2024. And again, I showed everybody.
That answers her question. Wow. Yeah.
That's astonishing. That's available on pacer.gov.
Yeah.
PAC, and I walked everybody through.
I did not know that they kept tracking that.
Yep, here it is. I can actually pull it up, Mike. This is. I'll send you a link to this. This is the same document that they used in the Q drops.
Right.
So if you go to the Q drops, it references the two anons that did it. This is their link. And you get all the way down to the bottom. It went up more since we did it. 495,114.
500,000 sealed indictments.
Yep.
That is
astonishing. 99 people per indictment. A hell of a lot of people.
Wow.
I'll blow it up in case people can't see it. Here it is.
That's what you call a purge. That's a cleansing.
Here.
That's a diuretic. Yeah. Love it. Beautiful.
495,114. So that's a lot of people. A lot of people.
That's a justice cinema.
Looks like they last updated this. Here it is right here. April 27th. So this was updated just a few weeks ago. So kudos to these anons that have kept this going. Here are their names. So you look at the Pacer reports, and again, pacer.gov, that's the official website. It's one of my first big red pills with Q. I got a pacer.gov ID, and I went in and I pulled it up, and I was like, holy shit, this is real. And these handles right here, Lisa Marie and all these different anons, these are the same anons that Q points to in the drop when they showed you the sealed indictments. So this is as legit gets when it comes to that. So
Dave,
crazy, right?
There's not many, let me tell you, there's not many people who can teach me stuff. I always think I got every nook and cranny of this thing covered. And that I did not know. So that's 2 items tonight. So
I wish to thank Dave from News Treason Channel 17, because this man has taught me a lot, and Mike King, that you saw on the screen, has also taught me a lot, and I reference him a lot in this book, especially in these chapters. However, they forgot to mention one very important thing that I'm showing you here, and I think that's a shame that they didn't highlight this point. On the screen, you see also the blue column here that says unsealed count. Unsealed is when an indictment has been acted upon and people has indeed been arrested. The number here says 50,160, or about 10% of the entire number. So, this was 2024, April 27. We are now 2025. I have heard recently that this number has now climbed to 600 plus thousand indictments. I do not know how many are open because I don't have access to this site. But I found it interesting that 50,000 has already been unsealed, because if you compare what I said before, that the average is about 1,000 to 1,700, and 50,000 has already been unsealed, that's 50,000 cases, right? And every indictment supposedly can contain up to 99 names in it. So God knows how many people has been put away already. All right? This is important for you to see, because this data is real and it's happening and it's staggering. Absolutely staggering. Let's move on. So 495 updated end of February 2024. Very well. Compared to the yearly average, this is absolutely remarkable, as we just said. If these are unsealed and acted upon, there will be less, of course, and I'm still expecting more news regarding this issue as we move on. Needless to say, there is a lot of people who are going to jail or worse. Beware, these can also be directed at people overseas. It's not only an American thing. Remember in the previous part where I explained the CEO resignation and the missing Hollywood celebrities? Could they be in there? They could very well be. Knowing what we know today and what I have described to you already, all these properties being sold, Rothschild selling all their assets, I guess time will tell. We will see how this moves on, and people just disappearing from the earth. Now we move on here with another clip from Mike King himself that you already saw. That is also very fascinating. I want you to get through this as well, because it provides even further context to what I'm saying here. So let's play you this little video.
All right, folks, welcome to Nino'sCorner.tv. This is the second part of a series that we've done, which is basically we're connecting the dots in chronological order about this power structure that's been in place and how they are currently being taken down. Would you call it what, the Illuminati, Mike?
It might not retain that name, but certainly, it grew out of the Illuminati 200 years ago before the French Revolution. So, they were busted up, but whether they reconstituted under that name or not is not really that important.
This is a global. It's a global network. It's not just America. It's a global network.
Oh, yeah. They've got their tentacles in you could pick the most obscure Asian or African nations. They've got their people in there. So
this all has to do with like secret societies or.
Yeah, secret societies, intelligence networks, corrupted politicians. It's always the same formula. You go in with your money, your influence, and they come to you like flies to poop, the dirty politicians.
Yeah.
Because they want to advance. So that's how they achieve their loyalty.
So this second part that we're going to be discussing, and then I suggest everyone go back and look at the first part where we went back in the past. Where did we go? What we went to 1776, did we, or 17?
Yeah, we started with that. We were talking about my latest book, Crash Course NWO, which is available on Amazon. What's that?
It's on Amazon, Crash Course NWO.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's also at my website, realnewsandhistory.com. Everything's in books or PDF format. But yeah, we 60 pages. I cover 250 years. It's a good skeletal structure. And we talked about something that is this deeply rooted for this long is not so, you don't pluck it up overnight.
Yeah.
So let's recap on that. Miles deep.
You want to recap on just the first segment, what we talked about real quick, and how we went from what?
We went from the founding of the Illuminati, that's 1776. The Illuminati was later discovered. It's a secret society. It was busted up. it reconstituted in some form or another, but its fingerprints are clearly visible on the French Revolution, which was a bloody mess. And then Napoleon took over and he restored order. And then there was a series of wars to take out Napoleon, led by the British and then funded by the Rothschilds. That's how far back the Rothschilds go, because Napoleon was banning the lending of money and interest. He was a
So
nationalist,
when people think of the Rothschilds are the money system.
Yeah, they're like the capos. They've been at the pinnacle. It's not just them; it's a big mafia. But certainly, unless there's something deeper. But when you look at them, just their sheer wealth and how long they've been in the game, and how long they've been advising kings and presidents and prime ministers to the current day, it's just amazing. It's just a family business. It goes down to the son, to the son, to the son, for a quarter of a millennium.
And they're kind of the umbrella, and I guess like the Rockefellers and other big families, the Morgans and all the Stanleys, right? They would all be under that umbrella of the Rothschilds.
Yeah, they even the Rockefellers, as immensely wealthy and powerful as they were, would not be above the Rothschilds.
So this is going to be interesting because I'm seeing the Rothschilds right now selling or auctioning off a lot of their stuff, a lot of their estate, which I don't see why a family would need to do that of that wealth, that own everything. Why would you need to auction off anything? So that, to me, raises the question, like, is there opposition at work here pushing them to be doing this? I mean, this is so interesting.
Well, it's not just, they're doing it, which is amazing. But I did a piece several years ago because there was an article in the New York Times on Tom Hanks was selling his collection of used cars. Why? I mean, that's something you do as a passion. You don't do it to buy and trade and make a profit. He certainly doesn't need the money. There's a bunch of Hollywood elites that have been selling property. It's very unusual, but it is consistent with Donald Trump's executive order. And I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's spelled out right in there. And Biden never repealed it. It declares a state of national emergency with regards to human trafficking and extreme corruption. And as a result, Trump had the power to confiscate assets.
Jeez.
That just fits perfectly.
Yes,
you can read the executive order. That's at a .gov website.
This is unbelievable. So where we're going to go today is from the present time forward, the Q operation, what you believe it to be, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of signs. I mean, I've seen in 2020. I remember all this big, thousands of them, I believe, CEOs that were stepping down. And I'm like, this is not normal. This doesn't just happen. So I know something's at work here. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. I have great discussions with people like Juan and other guests on my shows where all the signs are there that there is an operation in place. So
they certainly are.
I'll let you take the reins and go where you want to go with this.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the resignations. The sheer number of resignations, you mentioned the CEOs, but it's also U.S. senators, U.S. congressmen, record numbers, just out of nowhere resigning for these superfluous reasons. I want to spend more time with my family. Paul Ryan's the biggest example. A young guy in his 40s, Speaker of the House, was a vice presidential candidate. The guy had a whole career for me. He just stepped away. So just
Mitt Romney did too, didn't he?
Romney's on his way out. It's still going on. Toomey is on his way out. There's just so many. And ones who haven't resigned, some of them were beaten in primaries by Trump MAGA candidates. So it's been a bloodbath. And
I gotta say also, you just look at the obvious moves that were made, like beating Hillary, number one. A big obvious move to me was Pelosi being removed. I mean, how do you steal all the midterms, How do you steal the whole midterms, but you don't? You turn a blind eye to Pelosi and she doesn't make it. She'd be the first one you want in there. She was the one that was going to replace Biden, but she gets taken out. It's obvious to me that there's something at work here.
So that should provide some context going forward. There's more to this. You will listen to my king again, explaining in detail also the legalities and how they have achieved this staggering amount of arrests, I would say. So with this large number of indictments in the US alone, it seems quite obvious that the standard courts cannot handle such a load. And considering the Department of Justice is completely captured by the Khazarian mafia, it's commonly understood that military tribunals will have to be held, and they are currently ongoing. This applies especially for individuals accused of human and child trafficking, treason, and espionage, as well as other horrible crimes, of course. Military tribunals do not require a jury, and the justice is very swift. Just imagine the amount of time it must have taken to gather, verify, and process the amount of evidence to indict 495,000 people. And there could be as many as 99 persons indicated in each indictment too, so the number would be staggering. This is truly a very long-term plan playing out here, way before Trump was even asked to run. Two very well-known characters that were tried in this way and subsequently executed are John McCain, or No Name McCain, as he's called, and George Herbert Walker Bush, Papa Bush, that is. Supposedly both tried for treason and crimes against humanity. These two monsters were some of the first elite players to be taken down publicly, the head of the snake, so to speak, as soon as Trump came to office. To note is the American flag on their coffins when they laid in the Capitol during the wake before the state funeral. The flags were wrinkled, which in military language stands for traitor. Not many people are aware of this, but it's true. During Bush's senior funeral, there was a spectacle of sorts that still today leaves us very perplexed. It's called the envelope affair. I remember when this happened back in the days, and it was a fascinating display of power. And this video that I play to you now explains exactly what went down.
At the funeral ceremony for George Herbert Walker Bush, the world witnessed the strange scene of American nationalist President Donald J. Trump seated with the aging globalist cabal of past presidents and politicians. It was awkward. But there was something else odd going on. It was noticed that several of the globalist political players received an unexpected letter inside of their program. Hillary Clinton was the only one who kept her poker face when looking at the mysterious letter. Former Vice President Joe Biden appeared to be distressed when his wife found his. Laura Bush had a look of anger and could barely keep from staring at hers. And when she showed it to Jeb Bush, as his deceased father was being carried in front of him, he was distressed enough to take his hand from his heart, and he looked rather troubled by what he saw. The internet is abuzz with what these mystery letters are all about. Many who hope to see justice served in our corrupt American system speculate that this could be a foreboding message to America's traitorous first families. One can only hope. Whatever they were, they certainly appear to be disturbing to those who received them.
So that's pretty interesting, isn't it? This actually happened, and I was all over this thing. I thought it would be over by then. Unfortunately, we are still here talking about it. Now, rumor has it that what I'm about to show you here was the actual note. I don't know that for a fact, but it makes me tingle all over when I see it. I'll show it to you here. This is a note printed on former President of the United States letterhead. It says, "They know everything. I'm sorry, George H.W. Bush." If this is true, then Donald Trump is the biggest troll that ever walked the earth. That's for sure. Now, moving on to other legal matters and how this plays a role in the ongoing process. There is a very important aspect to this story that is overlooked. But if rationalized, it makes perfect sense. Very few people speak about this issue, so I will. If you listen carefully in previous video clips, the NSA has been mentioned many times, and they have indeed spied on everybody, including the elites that thought they were safe. Their protection net did not only include corrupted judges and paid-off administrator or plain blackmail, Epstein anybody, but something much more clever. They knew that all the evidence gathered against them was not admissible in court because it was illegally obtained. The NSA, just like the CIA, does not have permission under the Constitution to monitor and spy on its own citizens. All this evidence is literally useless in a court of law. If no warrant is issued by a judge, raids cannot be performed and no evidence collected. Who owns the judge? The Khazarian mafia, of course. I will explain here to what I consider to be a very astute move from the Alliance White Hats. It's questionable, but it's brilliant nonetheless. I will describe it to you here. How do you introduce evidence legally? You need a lawsuit, and in this case, many lawsuits. What has Trump been doing these last years? Lawsuit after lawsuit. The media has had a field day with his clown shows. What they did not realize, however, was that it was all done on purpose, and none of the suits actually ever led to anything. Why was this done if all the suits just fell by themselves? Now, when a suit is made, discovery occurs, subpoenas are issued, and raids are performed, and documents or evidence is collected. What if evidence was planted beforehand in said locations for the FBI to find, and such evidence entered in court and was registered? It would now be inside the legal system, and as such can be used. It didn't come from the NSA, it came from a citizen who happened to be in possession of such material. Q told us this. Let me show you how the dots connect. Here you have a post. I will start from the right side, April 17, 2018. This is written by Q. He says, Cohen raided by FBI. Public context regarding payment to Stormy Daniels. Everybody remember the porn star? Big scandal at the time, right? SC and FBI raided POTUS's attorney to pull Stormy Daniels' payment info. RR, that's Rosenstein, the Attorney General at the time, signed off. What other docs were collected? How many places raided? Raid on the President of the United States Attorney for payment details regarding private case regarding Stormy Daniels. Think logically. How do you introduce evidence into an investigation legally? Who has everything? Methods which info collected, obtained, admissible in the court of law. Insert Rudy Giuliani. He was also raided. Then we go over to the left side here, February 10, 2020, which is later. It says here, did Mueller open the door to Ukraine? Did Mueller open the door to FISA? Illegal. How do you introduce evidence legally? Did impeachment provide a platform to discuss findings of Ukraine? How do you introduce evidence legally? Did impeachment harm or help POTUS public? How do you introduce Democrats' high crimes, corruption to the public? Why didn't POTUS remove Hussein, that's Obama, holdovers from NSC? Do you really believe that POTUS and team trusted Hussein's holdovers to remain within the admin and worked to enact POTUS's agenda without bias or confrontation? How do you awaken the induced coma public face fake news control from their long sleep? Sometimes allowing your enemies to openly attack. Logical thinking. Q. So what is Q saying here? All these raids were organized by the alliance themselves in order to obtain all these illegal spying documents and put them into the court system. I will play you another clip of my superhero Mike King here that describes exactly this process, and it's glorious. So please enjoy this clip because it will explain a lot.
Idea of military patriots in white hats wanting to save this country goes way back. Okay, we'll go back to 1932. The communists were destabilizing the country. They wanted to get rid of Hoover and put FDR in there. They organized what was called a bonus army march on Washington, D.C. 40,000 people. These were ex-World War I veterans who wanted a bonus 20 years early. And, Hoover wasn't going to give it to them. He says, this is a nation of laws. Your bonus isn't due for 20 years. Most of the people there were innocent, but they were led by a communist underground. So Hoover brought in General MacArthur and General Patton before they were even famous from World War II, just to kind of keep an eye on the situation. And MacArthur gave the order to bust the whole thing up, tore down their shacks, their tents, cracked a few skulls and sent them home. The reason he cracked down so hard is because he knew what was behind it, okay? It wasn't that it was just these poor soldiers, it's a depression, they want a little money. No, he knew it was a communist insurrection, and this is the only language they understand, okay? So there is a precedent for military patriots understanding what's going on and doing what they can in their own limited way to push back against it. Now let's fast forward to World War II. This is huge because this directly connects to Q. And frankly, I haven't heard anybody mention this in the whole Q movement. Maybe I'm wrong. But during World War II, there was a program initiated by the U.S. Army Signal Corps. On their own, they were monitoring Soviet communications, because even though the Soviet Union was our so-called ally during World War II, they didn't trust those sons of bitches, okay? So they were monitoring their communications, and what they discovered in the process is that they had communists in the Roosevelt administration, highly placed communists, who were, they were kind of engineering the war so international communism would advance. They were traitors. And they had enough information on these guys to hang them, okay? Or even on Roosevelt, who knew nothing about this program. That's the U.S. Army Signal Corps. And there's a Q post, Q post 1876. Why was no such agency, that means NSA, that's what they call it, no such agency, created? Think, SIG Intel, that's the U.S. Army Signal Corps that was monitoring these traitors during Venona. Now, here's the problem. You've got all this dirt on these traitors, and this continued throughout the decades, and it was not declassified until 1995. Venona Secrets. I read this book in 1995. It was amazing. But it raises the question, why was nothing done? There was no further investigation, no arrest. Nothing was done about it. Because the information is not usable. It's not actionable. It was not obtained by a warrant. Technically, it's illegal. Okay? So that's known as fruit of the poison tree. They couldn't use it. So imagine the frustration of these military patriots all these years knowing this kind of stuff was going on because they're monitoring it. You can't do anything with it. What do you do with the evidence? Okay? Now, this was the Q post that really got me, because now I have this information, this historical knowledge already in mind. And I read, this is April 27, 2018, Q post 1287. How do you introduce evidence into an investigation legally? Who has everything? Methods which information was collected and obtained? Question mark. Admissible in a court of law? Question mark. No. So what this post is saying is the NSA's got everything, but it's not admissible. How do you introduce it legally? And then we read in the same post, these are all question marks asked by Q. Michael Cohen raid by FBI? Public context regarding payment to Stormy Daniels? Special counsel, that's Bob Mueller, and FBI raid POTUS attorney to pull Stormy Daniels' payment information? In other words, what Q is telling us is that they figured out a way to solve the problem of Venona. That is, how to introduce this information. And the Stormy Daniels thing was just one element of it. Stormy Daniels is a white hat. So is Michael Avenatti.
So,
Go ahead.
so basically, these are our own type of false flags.
Exactly.
So
We're
they're
out
creating
scamming
these
the scammer.
scenarios so where we can introduce our evidence.
Right, because you got a ton of evidence.
So is it really the deep state that's doing these charges on Trump, or is it the white hats?
It's the white hats. It's absolutely the white hats, and they've got some deep state in their midst who don't even know they're being
They're
played.
fucking idiots. They're
Yeah, they are.
they're getting played.
Mueller,
Wow.
Bob Mueller is a white hat. I'm telling you, he's a white hat.
So
But he's
there's two
surrounded
paths.
himself
Some of
with
these
some of
people
these
are playing two
Obama
sides.
people. Yeah. Okay. So now look at how many raids were there. They raided Michael Cohen, who just wrote a book about how bad Trump is. That's all fake. That's like the movie The Sting, when Robert Redford and Paul Newman pretended to hate each other because they were scamming.
Wow.
The Gambler is wild. So they raided Michael Cohen. They raided Paul Manafort. They raided Carter Page. They raided Rudy Giuliani. They raided Roger Stone. They raided Mar-a-Lago itself. Boxes and boxes. Computers. They have it all, but now it's part of the legal system, even though it's not related to what they're looking for. You understand?
Yes.
They solved the problem of Venona. They dumped it all into the legal system. They got them by the balls.
Oh my gosh. And so do you think, so what do you think about like Biden, and do you think, I mean, Obama, like, do you think what's their moves from here? Do you think they know what's going on, or are they, I mean, because they're fighting tooth and nail. They're fighting tooth and nail, but do you think they're aware of this operation, or, I mean, what do you think? This is what, because
I make an analogy. Let me make an analogy to it's late in a football game. You ever see where the defense is tired and there's this big bruising John Riggins type running back, and they're just handing the ball off, killing the clock. They know it's coming. They might as well call it. We're going, John Riggins. I'm old school. John Riggins right. John Riggins left. He's so big. He's so strong. It's so late in the game. The defense is tired. It don't matter if they know he's coming. They're going to hand it to him every play anyway to run out the clock. So that's kind of analogous to what we are, where we are. They can't do anything. They're surrounded. Their money's been cut off. And frankly, and this is not
what about this
something
new
I
House
know
move by Johnson, who just won another $1 trillion for the House, for the budget? I mean,
I think a lot of this is just theater. It keeps everybody like distracted. I don't even pay mind to what the so-called Congress is doing. And frankly, and I don't say I know this, like some people say they know, and there's websites and stuff, but I do believe it. I think a lot of these players these chess pieces have already been taken off the board and replaced with CGI, people wearing masks, just crazy shit.
So, that's even some more context for you right there. Describes exactly what I've been telling you here. All this evidence has been collected in a very smart and astute manner in order to get it all into the legal system and thus supporting these 495,000 indictments. At least part of it, I would say. Because now All this illegal spying by the NSA has them by the balls, like Mike King says, because now it's inside the legal system. There's no way out of this. There's no protection anymore. So as you see, Michael Cohen was raided. That was Trump's attorney. Avenatti, Stormy's attorney, was raided. Rudy Giuliani was raided. Roger Stone was raided. Paul Manafort was raided. And Trump's Mar-a-Lago was raided. Big scandal at the time. They gathered truckloads of evidence. And that's now in the official court system. Boom. Done. End of story. Very elegant indeed. They have planned this for a very long time. Now, I obviously has no way to confirm the veracity of any of this, but I will show you a list here that I found that would go in line with what I'm saying, what I'm hearing and seeing. You might want to zoom in on this, or you might want to scan the QR code on your screen that will lead you to a website where this document is posted. And on that website, if you go through all the information there, it will keep you busy for the next couple of decades, probably. There's a lot there. On this list here is names of all the people that has been either arrested or replaced with a body double, guy in a mask maybe. The list is very long, and it's at this point in time is probably much longer than that. So, said all that, I hope I have stimulated you a little bit. I hope that you start to understand how this movie is currently playing out. I hope you understand that the alliance is indeed winning, and that everything you see around you, the geopolitical moves, the economical moves, the sanctions, everything you see, it's a pre-written play in order for us to get to a point where disclosure can finally occur. But I can assure you that I am 100% confident that the head of the snake has been cut off, and we are now just reliving history because it's already been made. And this is just a presentation to the populace, to people like you and me, to see what has been done in the background and slowly dripping out to the collective consciousness. And my job here today with this podcast series is to show you what you have not seen yet, and to provide some context and some hidden information, so to speak, for you to relax, to be confident that we have already won this. We got them by the balls. There's no way out. And when this is over, the world will never look anything like it looked before. Glorious times are indeed ahead. I'm absolutely sure of that. We just don't know when. This is an event-driven operation. It doesn't follow a timeline. One event leads to another event and unlocks door after door after door. And we just have to be patient, open the popcorn, and enjoy the show, as Q has said. So we will now move into the next episode, which is chapter 13.5. It's called How the Movie Plays Out, where I will demonstrate to you even further that we are indeed watching a movie. Everything has already been done and set in stone. So, with all that said, thank you very much for being here today. That's all for me. Max out, and peace to you all.